Summer routines live or die by how easy they are. And honestly, if something takes too much effort, I'm out. That's why Groons is my go-to. It's my one daily pack of gummies covering my greens, vitamins, and minerals. Plus, it has 6 grams of prebiotic fiber, which is more than 2 cups of broccoli. No mixing powders, no giant pills, no hassle. I just rip open the pack and I'm done. They taste good and they make it easy to stay on top of my health, even when life gets busy. Save up to 52% with the code PODCAST at Groons.co. That's code PODCAST at GRUNS.co.
Welcome to Simplify. I'm Caitlin Schiller.
I'm Benjamin Solar.
Hi, Ben.
Hey, Caitlin.
Here in the studio, loving our cozy light.
That's right. More tests.
More tests.
We'll continue to change the lighting every week.
Maybe next week will be pink. We don't know.
Enjoy the ephemeral lamp.
Today's guest is Christine Armstrong.
But before we talk about Christine, we got some feedback about the last episode with Yoni Friedhoff. And I think we should talk about it real quick.
Yeah.
I mean, I sent it to you also. First of all, it seems like we hit a nerve with the salad, my salad comment. You've also been sending me all these salads on Instagram now all of a sudden.
Yes.
Like somebody who cooked radishes. Don't cook radishes. It's disgusting.
I think you can do whatever you want as long as it tastes good.
Yeah. So then don't like briefly pan fry radish. Just
Have you ever had a briefly pan fried radish?
Yeah. It's like eating one of those slimy rocks in a lake.
Okay, well, that is a matter of opinion, I suppose. I have not had a slimy pan-fried radish. I've pan-fried radish greens, like the radish tops.
Yep.
Very good.
Best.
Excellent. Nice in an omelet. However,
For sure.
Anyway, we're getting off track. Salads can be divisive, it turns out.
That's right. So someone sent in a voice message.
Yeah.
Where she said she had a salad with a banana in it once. Again.
I find that really unappealing, but I don't know. Under the right circumstances, I might like that.
All salads are welcome.
Yes. All salads welcome and equal.
That's right. But also made a good point that we talked about, we didn't really address the like GLP-1 stuff.
Yeah.
Right? And
There's
I think
so much stuff around it.
That's right. And we missed it a little bit. I think we should have talked about how, I don't think either of us think, for example, that thinness equals health.
Absolutely not.
I don't even know if that's what Dr. Friedhoff
Have
thinks.
you met me? Like, no.
But right. So I think we want to just make sure that we probably should have put a disclaimer before we talked about anything related to dieting, even though we tried to find the most simplify on-brand dieting
yes, we did.
expert, right?
Right. But I'm really glad that we got that feedback because it gives us the chance now to actually talk about it. This person's hesitations were around, prizing thinness as the only way to be healthy, discrimination against bodies that are not thin. She had a lot of really good points. The thing that I wish that we had talked about, and I could sort of feel in the room as I was talking with Dr. Friedhoff, was I wanted to talk about the fact that there is so much emotional content behind body weight also. Yeah. Speaking from experience, there are lots of reasons that people gain and lose weight. They are sometimes because you're so happy. Sometimes they're because you're so sad. Sometimes it's an underlying health thing. And it really shouldn't matter. But there is so much psychological content and emotional content and political content behind weight and GLP-1s. And I thought about that as I was talking with Dr. Friedhoff. When you're doing an interview, you're always running like 6 different scripts in your head and deciding like which one is going to be the one. And ultimately, I decided not to go there with him because he is a medical doctor who deals with obesity care. And he is not a psychological doctor. And he is not a qualified therapist. And I thought, okay, I've only got him for about 40 minutes now. And this is not the direction that would be most useful to go in. One of the things that I liked about his stance on GLP-1s is that if they are going to help you live the happiest life that you can in your body, then maybe that is something we should explore. So I liked sort of the even-handed, this is not wrong, you are not wrong for wanting this that he brought to the table, and that's what I wanted to highlight.
Yeah. Yeah, fair. I think we have to be careful about normalizing. It is, if you think about it, it is insane that like a couple years ago, no one had ever heard of any of this stuff or used any of this stuff. And
unless you were diabetic.
Unless you're diabetic. And now, thank you. And now it's everywhere to the point where it's sort of like, it's almost like it creates an in and out, right? And that's, I think, what's important also to at least name. We don't want to contribute to the idea that like if you're not trying to be thin
Yeah.
or somehow thinking about this, you're out of the kind of trend or the current.
Definitely
or
not.
Right? Like, not at all. I think maybe we should have framed the episode a little bit more like, if losing weight is a thing, like many people, is a thing you've thought about, we want to bring an expert who has an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I've got to say, if anything, I feel the opposite. I would love to not think about weight or food or question my food choices. And that has been deeply beaten into women who grew up in the 90s and early aughts. Also probably men, but speaking from experience, I would love to not think about this. But the fact of the matter is that we do.
Yeah.
And I liked Dr. Friedhoff's stance on dieting and GLP-1s because it was, to me, it felt like a way to be able to think less about weight.
Yeah.
Like to evaluate on a different axis. Are you happy? Do you feel healthy?
Right.
Can you enjoy your life? So yeah, we definitely, I whiffed it a little bit. We could have gone deeper. There were reasons for the choices, but I'm just really glad that we have listeners who care enough to give us feedback and we can talk about it now. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah. Great. Okay, so let's talk about Christine Armstrong.
Sure.
Why did you want to have her on the show, and what can people look forward to in the interview?
Yes. I wanted to have her on the show because, okay, so I have a disposition that is pretty anti-video in general, but I love her vlogs. That she's a researcher.
Right.
She's an author. She's a researcher. She really digs into what is going on behind all the data that you see around the world of work. Like, sure, here are some stats about what return to office brings you, but what does that actually mean? And does it play out that way in real life? Sure, here are some stats about how much more productive AI is making the workforce, but is that true? So she kind of does some detective work into what's actually going on behind the scenes. She's talking to lots of employers and employees in different companies in the UK right now. And she presents her findings in really like candid, delightful, straight talking ways on her vlog. She also runs Armstrong Partners. She wrote The Mother of All Jobs. We didn't actually talk about her book today because right now she's most focused on where work is breaking down and what it might take to fix that. So yeah, I thought she was just really interesting, and she brings in a counterpoint to AI is taking over everything fast and you're not going to have a job in 6 months. And that's refreshing.
Right. Okay. So then here's you, Caitlin Schiller, and Christine Armstrong.
Hi, Christine Armstrong. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Delighted to have you. Christine, you have written a book called The Mother of All Jobs. You are a researcher. You are a person of many curiosities and much research, and you have a lot going on. How do you like to introduce yourself?
So I say I'm a researcher into the world of work. So I look at the data and the trends, and then I do lots of interviews with people about what's going on for them at work. And I try and sort of combine a sort of high-low picture of what are the trends saying, but then what are people telling us on the ground?
Yeah. And lately it seems like I actually just watched one of your vlog episodes today. You have been interested in culture and loneliness and AI. So those are some of the things that I wanted to touch on today. Yeah. So I think there's a through line connecting all of it that I kind of want to pull at. And here it is. So post-pandemic, and mid-AI revolution, we were sort of promised a new idea of what work could be and mean, this kind of reset. And what you seem to be trying to find out with all of your research is, are we actually building anything better? Or what is it that we're building? Does that sound accurate?
It's a great question, isn't it? So the way that I see it is that prior to COVID, you have, when I'm doing research and I'm speaking in groups, I would say, who feels that the world of work is working for them and their household right now? And I would be lucky if 10 or 15% of the people in the room put their hand up, because we had reached a point of kind of saturation where people were in the office 5 days a week, but working over their hours a lot and also connected all of the time online emails and all the rest of it. And people were just like, where does life fit into this?
Mm-hmm.
COVID came along and it gave us a kind of an answer, which is, well, if we spent some of the time at home, maybe we would have a chance to make some of this work. Because essentially what you've moved away from, it's like the world of work is designed for a breadwinner model where one person's out full-time working and the other person in a sort of ideal mental picture possibly doesn't work, but in reality works what you might call a half a job. They might work flexibly or locally or around school hours or whatever. And coming towards COVID, that just isn't working financially. People can't afford the rent or their mortgage if they've got a household. So COVID kind of promises an answer, which is, hey, look, there's another way. Some people can work remote. Some people can work hybrid. Some people might be able to work 4-day weeks or shorter days. And we could maybe be able to work and have good jobs and also have a life. I think post-COVID, we're now trying to work out how this delivers in practice. And there's lots of different currents. So you've got old school bosses and leaders saying nothing was broken in the first place. I always had somebody at home running all of my staff. I always had people that I could afford to help me. So I don't understand why this weird virus has changed what was working perfectly well before, and there's no need for this. You've got other people saying, I love doing 1 or 2 days or 3 days at home or working at home because I can drop the kids at school, I can walk the dog, I can put in a wash and still be really productive. And the evidence is people are really productive if they work from home some of the time. But I also feel more disconnected from my colleagues. And so there's a sort of tension building in there. I feel maybe less strong sense of belonging. I maybe feel more lonely and more isolated. And I don't necessarily want to go back to 5 days a week. But is there a way that I can still feel connected to my team and secure and do a good job? And I think you have to sort of overlay that with an awareness that all of the trends of the last 10 years have tended to pull at the ties between people at work. So if you think about hybrid and remote being part of it, but also agile teams where people reform teams as projects change. Hot desking for a lot of people where you don't always, when you do go in 2 or 3 days, you don't even sit with the same people or you sit in different places every time you go in. When you look at all the video calling that's just exploded. So instead of people going to the office and maybe having meetings together, they're all in the office, but they're all on video calls and they're on a Slack channel and they're on an email channel and they're on a Teams channel and they're overwhelmed by messages. Then we bring in AI, which we know reduces conversation because instead of me saying, hey, Caitlin, what do I need to know about this, that, and the other? I can put it into my AI and never even tell you that I didn't know to start with.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like we are measurably avoiding each other, which is the opposite of what we need for our thriving as human beings.
Yes, some of us are avoiding each other. And one sort of metaphor that I often use is around what you probably call a bumper car, but the Brits often call dodgems. And essentially we're talking about exactly the same thing, a small play car in a circus in a rink. And when I first went into one of those, I thought that it was called a dodgem in my house. I thought the name of the game was to avoid the other cars. So I drove around the edge thinking that I was winning in some way. And then realized that actually the joy is in the connecting and the bumping, the way that Americans call it a bumper car. You're supposed to bump and create energy and take risks. And I think that because there have been, because of the AI messaging, 20 to 30% of the workforce won't be needed. Everybody's going to be on universal basic income. Jobs are going, professional jobs are over, combined with the reality which lots of younger generations see on TikTok and in other social media, which is, hey, we laid everybody off yesterday and you got an email saying, as of today, your job no longer exists. Thanks for your service. And they're just going, well, why would I make great friends with these people? They don't care about me. This is all bullshit. This is never going to pay me back. It doesn't matter how hard I work, I'll never be able to afford a house like my parents had. I'm never going to be able to get a pension the way previous generations would. I have no faith in the sustainability of the healthcare system in the market that I'm in. So why would I kill myself? Why would I make great friends and throw myself into every social activity when I really don't know what the rewards are anymore?
Absolutely. Yeah, it is a weird time to think about employment. And I think that the people who are in employed full-time jobs right now, I have very few friends, to be honest, who are in that situation, are wondering constantly, what is AI going to take off of my plate next? Or in what ways are my bosses going to insist that I use AI as part of my as part of how I'm evaluated at my job. And then there's...
So I think that distinction that you just raised is so important at this very precise moment, because one of the things we're hearing in interviews all of the time is this disparity between what's being promised with AI and what bosses are buying into and what the reality is on the ground. And Nick Bloom from Stanford, who does a lot on LinkedIn, he's great. He did a recent study and it was 6,000 CEOs, CFOs and leaders. And they asked those leaders how much time they were spending knowingly using AI right now. And 69% said less than an hour a week, or about an hour a week, and 28% said they never knowingly used it. But when we go and talk to people in the workforce, they say we're being force-fed AI, we're being pushed to use it, rewarded to use it. But, and this is so important, right now it's creating more problems than it's solving. We are getting AI slop. We're getting overwhelmed with bullshitty documents that are not well formatted, that we don't know what to do with. We're getting incorrect information, but we put it into a data set. It's in a black box. We don't know why it's incorrect. It's taking us a long time to unravel it. We're being told we don't need assistance anymore. We can book our own travel, but the AI doesn't work very well. The agent we're supposed to use is time consuming. It doesn't let us book the hotel that we always book. And, you know, there's all these kinks in the system that are driving people crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. You've said recently that, or maybe, I don't know how recently, but you've said in your writing and thinking that as AI replaces humans at certain types of work, the human becomes the luxury product, which I find both fascinating and kind of chilling. So what does it actually mean to have human labor become the premium tier, and who gets to afford that?
Right. So it's not my phrase. It's something that's used in luxury retail and hotels. And the idea is that humans are the luxury. So if you pay for a 5-star hotel, then you will have a person on front desk who greets you and says, "Hey, Mr. Schiller, it's lovely to see you today. Welcome to our hotel. Would you like me to take you to your room?" But if you check into a budget hotel, you're going to go in, scan a QR code and wander down the corridor and never see another face. And so the question is, who's going to be able to afford that humanity? And the humanity becomes a luxury. You can imagine it. I mean, we've experimented it with those Amazon shops where you never had to check out. You just scanned your products and then you left. Right? I know they've shut down in the UK, but it's exactly that model versus going into an old-fashioned shop or a regular supermarket, and you go and you check out and you say to the lady, "Hi, Stephanie, how was your day? Oh, the football's on later. Who are you supporting?" Whatever. And you have some sort of social interaction from that.
Yeah. Yeah. There's also something in that framing that makes me wonder, to whom does that human, if the premium human, to whom does that human belong? I guess we've always had questions about who owns a worker's time. But if the human is now the luxury good, the differentiator, the premium, does that change the power dynamic at all? Are workers maybe, or could workers be in a stronger position or a more vulnerable one?
Well, it depends how many human workers we need, because, I mean, there's two ways to look at this. You can say birth rates are declining in a lot of markets, particularly in Western Europe and the US. And so actually we're going to have fewer people coming through into the workforce. So workforces are declining, some of them quite rapidly towards the end of this decade and certainly into the 2030s. Now, there is an argument that you end up with a perfect match. We have AI doing a lot of jobs where humans are a luxury item. So we have a smaller number of people and we need fewer people. And so all is well. Maybe that's correct. Other analysis would say, well, it bifurcates the employment market even further. You end up with people fighting for a very small amount of very technically talented, but also emotionally able groups who are able to explain the technology, who are able to take people with them, who use it in creative ways, who are really smart, technically, but also in terms of their EQ. So there's a small group of them that do brilliantly. And then you end up with everybody else in kind of practical jobs, food, plumbing, electricity, building, etc., etc. And maybe you don't have enough of those. My read, you haven't asked, but, you know, if I sort of think about it, I think you rarely get a perfect match, but we do tend to, people adapt, don't they? They adapt to whatever is a reality. My experience so far is that AI is rolling out more slowly and more jaggedly, like more unevenly, chaotically, problematically than ever expected. And it's going to take us longer to get to this point of low employment than we expect. And maybe it's not going to happen in the way that some people think it will. I'm a bit skeptical about it at this point.
I find that very hopeful, actually.
Good.
That's good.
I like that.
Yeah. What are you're in businesses interviewing people about how they're using AI and what's going on in their worlds of work. What are you finding with relation to AI that you'd absolutely never considered, or is there anything?
I'll tell you something somebody told me last week, which I thought was just fascinating. So a doctor, a GP, so that's a general practitioner in the UK, said, I think that AI is going to destroy the NHS, so the UK's national health system. And I was like, oh, that is an interesting thought. Tell me about that. And she said, well, there's two things. One is that if somebody gets diagnosed with something, so let's take an example. Say somebody's diagnosed with lung cancer. They can go back through their medical notes for the last 10 years, put them into AI and say, should my doctor have spotted this earlier? Yeah, you went in with a cough 2 years ago and they sent you home with antibiotics. They should have checked. They didn't check. They didn't do a blood test. They didn't do another test. So you'll end up with a rise in also. You went and told them that you had a lump and they said it was probably fine and to come back if it grew. They should have checked that lump when you came in and they didn't. And now it's cancer. And so that was one of it. And then the second thing is that because of that litigation and that risk and the trail and all the notes, obviously a lot of doctors are using these notes to record their consultations now, is that if somebody comes in and says, okay, so I've got a mole on my arm and I've taken a picture and I've put it into my AI and my AI says I should get it checked out. And say the doctor looks at that and thinks, do you know what? I actually think it looks fine. It's regular. I'm not worried about it. And previously they would have said, you know what? If it changes, if it grows, come back in 2 or 3 months. If not, I think that one's okay. She said, now I just think, why would I risk that? If the AI said that it's a risk, why don't I just send them to a specialist? And everyone thinks that. So we're just drowning the specialists in cases that don't need the specialist because we're worried about litigation. So in two different directions, we are not reducing jobs, we are creating jobs. We are creating jobs for lawyers and we're creating jobs for specialists and we're creating work. It's not more efficient.
That is so interesting. That doesn't sound more efficient at all. That sounds like a measurably worse outcome.
I had the same conversation with a local authority. They said, it used to be that if somebody had a problem with a local authority service, that they would ring up and say, my flat has a leak and there's water coming in and when can somebody come and fix it? Now they send us a long AI-generated letter about their rights, our responsibilities, their legal rights, what we need to do. Now, we're a local authority. We can't put that into an AI and respond with bullshit. We have to get a lawyer to check whatever we're writing back to respond to these are my rights, this is what I'm entitled to, etc. And then when we send it back, what do? They put it into their AI and they send us another one. And it's generating more and more and more. And none of that is addressing the original leak.
Oh my God. So this is like the real world version of AI slop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow. I'd never thought about the actual implications of that reaching a local authority in a physical way before. That is bonkers.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. There's something else I wanted to ask you about with regards to AI and its time. And you've been tracking what AI is doing to time at work. And the scenarios that you describe are kind of disorienting. A junior does a 3-day project in 2 hours and asks to leave early, or a client queries an invoice for work done in an hour. A CFO demands AI cost savings, while the team lead is like hiring someone to fact check the AI system. These are all versions of the same problem. We built our whole idea of billing and compensation and seniority around time. So if AI decouples time from output, what actually replaces that as the unit of value?
If only we knew, right?
Yes, do you have any ideas?
I'm not sure that I have a coherent answer on this, except I agree with the premise, which is it's messing with how we measure time. So the examples you cited are really interesting. So if it is really efficient and it works, it compresses time. But many of the stories we're hearing at the moment is where it's actually expanding the time to get things done. So for instance, there's quite a few instances of people managing multiple agents and finding that very time consuming and feeling that they can't leave them, because if they leave the agents, they either stop doing what they're supposed to be doing or they go off in the wrong direction. So they're kind of constantly babysitting the agents and finding that both very stressful but also very boring. So it's not stimulating because they're not talking to people. So I think there's a lot of different ways that we have to think about how we create work that is meaningful and rewarding. And one of the really significant things, which I think some of the tech bro conversation about AI forgets, is that part of our human identity comes from our job. If I say to you, I'm a retired teacher, that is giving you an enormous amount of information about who I am, even though I'm not actually teaching anymore. Okay, it tells you about my training, it tells you about my interest areas. You're going to say, well, what level, what subject? Like, you've got a real access point to have a great conversation. If we take that away from people, who are we? What are we for? We're going to have a huge societal crisis. And so I think the idea of replacing jobs willy-nilly and that being some sort of utopia is completely crackers. People need to feel that they matter. They need to feel that they have an identity, that they have a purpose. And I don't know that managing multiple agents and responding to lots of agent inquiries and treating them as employees is going to give people that sense of mattering. It feels very hollow, very empty, very dystopian. And one of the examples I read, which I thought was interesting, was a call center who introduced an AI system thinking this is great, we'll need fewer people in the call center. Well, what they actually discovered was that all of the easy inquiries were resolved by the AI. So anything like this package needs to be chased up or they need a different color, anything easy, the AI. Everything that had got people to a point of fury and rage and where they just wanted to go, went through to the people. And you can only imagine the pressure that the people who were answering the phones were dealing with, the really frustrated people and the unsolvable or difficult to solve problems. So we don't just have to think, and I think this has been the problem with AI. I think there's been too much thinking about what it can do and its potential, and not nearly enough thinking about what makes a good world of work. What do the people need? The customers and the people that, that are buying products, what do they need? And what do the people who work in the systems need? I went recently to a John Lewis. So for anybody not in the UK, it's a department store. It's sort of known for its customer service and quality. And one of the things that they have is a tech floor. And they are one of really unusual in that they have a problem-solving tech team. And you can literally go and queue up with your phone or your iPad or your laptop and say, it's not working, please will somebody help me, as part of the service. You go into that department, the one near us, and there is a queue of 60 people, mostly over the age of 60, holding machines, desperately waiting for some young person to go, oh, you haven't set up this right, you need to restart this. People are craving people to help, and businesses are sending them to AIs, to automated systems. And there's a huge number of people that just want to see people at the checkout with the help. And I'm not sure that's going to go away. And I'm not sure that just saving it for people who've got enough money is going to lead us to a better society. I'm pretty sure it's not.
Oh, almost certainly not. That is so interesting. I mean, people do get such a tremendous amount of identity from their work, as you said, and they also get a sense of mastery and agency. And I couldn't help but think of the call center workers that you just cited. If they're only getting the cases where they feel like it's hopeless and someone is yelling at them and they're in intractable situations, that is going to lead to higher rates of burnout and depression.
For sure. I did go and see recently, maybe you saw the video, I went to see a call center organization called Moneypenny in the north of England. And they've got a really different approach, which is interesting. And they kind of went into it thinking call centers, I worked not in a call center as such, but answering calls at an insurance company and when I first started working as a temp. And it's a really hard job, okay, because you're dealing with people, you can't always solve their problem, they're often frustrated. And so they thought, well, how do we hire happy, smiley people and keep them happy and smiley and doing a great job. And they provide call center services as an outsourced business, essentially. And so they kind of put everything into their culture to try and make it a good working experience, in-house training, food, beautiful environment, and, really, really great cultural stuff. And they've also been experimenting with AI, and their AI is really interesting. What they've looked for is an AI that does two really interesting things. When you call, it can tell, it tries to estimate your age, and there's a correlation between how likely you are to be willing to deal with the AI and your age. So if you're older and you're less likely, it's just going to put you through to a person. But also it reads your emotional state. So if you are feeling frustrated and you really want to talk to someone, it will automatically divert you. So I think there are much smarter ways that we can use the AI to help people. But we need to be really careful, and we need to really think, if you want to have a stable, well-informed, successful call center team, you're going to need to give them pleasant, positive calls in between the ones that are harder to deal with.
Absolutely. Yeah. We need to feel like we are able to affect reality with our talents and our effort. I'm really glad that you are out there doing boots on the ground research, because I think so much of what we see filtering through social media is that AI is the answer to everything. It's going to take jobs, and it's really there. It's inevitable, and it sounds like that is kind of the opposite of what you're finding. That yes, AI integration is inevitable, but not necessarily in the ways that we think.
It's just much messier than we're pretending. And the sort of comparison I use is that I really dislike driving. My brain does not work that way. I don't think in 3D. Cars do not interest me in the slightest. And I passed my driving test when I was 17, and I'm now nearly 52. And I've been waiting for a self-driving car, and I've been promised it, I swear to God, every 5 years since I was 17, and I still don't have one. And I think this stuff takes longer and is more complicated than we expect. And, the metaverse is a relevant comparison. The metaverse, I'm pretty sure, will be useful in the future in some version, but we overhyped it. We went too early. We assumed too big things of it, and it didn't work in the way that it's promised. And I feel that AI is likely to be very similar in that it will be really useful. It's going to do amazing things. It already does some amazing things, but it is messier and more complicated than we want it to be.
That seems really fair. That seems really fair. I just wondered, this is less of a question and more of just a thing to put out there. Did you see earlier this year that the CEO of Palantir, who's obviously one of the most powerful AI companies in the world, sat down and said essentially that AI will reduce the economic power of highly educated and often female voters while giving more power to working class men? What do you think of that?
I don't think I saw that. What was his basis for saying that? I feel like I need to go and look at that. I can't believe I missed it. I want to see this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I can send you a link later.
Yeah, do.
Unfortunately, yes. Unfortunately, I can send you a link. Yeah, he said that. And then shortly after, there was published data showing that female-dominated jobs are almost twice as exposed to AI automation as male-dominated ones. And at the highest risk levels, the exposure is like 5 times more. And the reason for that is structural somewhat. Women are concentrated in administrative, analytical, communicative roles, which is where AI is making the fastest inroads. And that's striking because those are also exactly the roles that women were pointed toward. Lean in, build expertise, make the sacrifices.
Yeah, so if you take that human as luxury, a lot of those service-based roles are women's roles for sure. So I've certainly read the point that you're making about what he said. I think, yes, possibly. If you accept the premise that we don't need the human interaction and that won't be a part of how we differentiate. Because another way of looking at this is to say, if everybody has access to the same information through AI and many of the same systems and processes, then the only thing that's going to differentiate your organization, your service, your existence in the world is going to be the relationships that you have. And the relationships you have within your own team and their culture, but also the relationships you have with your customer base. Now, if you can do that at scale without people, in a kind of social media way, okay, fine. Maybe you need fewer people and maybe there are women that are hit. But if you need those relationships, then you're going to need people who have emotional intelligence, who follow their guts, who use their feelings, who see the value of that bumper car, that connection, that moment, then maybe you're going to need more people who have that. And that might not be so bad for women after all. So listen, I'm always wary of any kind of blanket. It's going to be good for this and bad for that. I always think it's more complicated. But we'll see. Maybe he's right.
Spoken like a true researcher.
Sorry, hedging my bets. Sorry.
No, I think that's smart. I guess I'd like to turn back to loneliness, which is where we started this talk. What patterns are you finding as you are? I think you're preparing a talk called "We Need to Talk." Is that true?
I kind of do that talk quite often. So I do something when I'm in the room with people, and I almost always do it now, where I just say at some point in the talk, just stop and talk to the person next to you for 3 minutes, and they're not going to interrupt you. Just tell them what's on your mind, and then we swap over. And I do it because it has the most intensely profound impact in the room. People cry. They hug strangers, they hold hands, They say, I can't remember the last time that somebody listened to me without interrupting, without looking at their phone. They say, I met someone today and I'm going to be friends with them for a long time. Or they say, I talked to somebody and I've worked with them for 10 years and we've never had the conversation that we've just had with them. And so this really simple act of just listening to somebody else is so transformative in terms of the connection between people, but also the energy in the room. And I think in our very busy lives, where we know club membership has dramatically declined since the 60s, people don't know their neighbours. They would rather look at their phones than talk to somebody on the train or the bus. They turn up at the office and they actively try to avoid people. I saw some data recently, nearly 60% of people say that they fake phone calls and fake going to the toilet to avoid talking to people at work sometimes,
Oh my goodness.
It's crazy. We do all these things, but actually what we as humans need is connection. It makes us feel safe and grounded and happy. And Nick Epley is an American sociologist on this gorgeous piece of research where he forced people unwillingly to talk to each other on buses and trains and just recorded people are so much happier when they do it, even though we all think we'd rather look at our phones. So I think as a society, we've forgotten the joy of connecting with other people and the energy that it gives us, and also the ideas, the solutions, the creativity. It's a really wonderful thing to have friends and be connected and talk to people in the world.
Yeah, that makes me think about I recently spoke with this relational skills teacher in the US named Christabel Minta Galloway, and she said that the systems we live under benefit greatly when we don't learn repair. And repair is one of the things she teaches. And to further that, she says we are scattered and dependent on empire to meet our needs because we don't have the dependable, trustworthy, committed relationships that we should. And she was talking about intimate relationships there, but I mean, it's just as true at the workplace. We need each other at work. We need great collaboration to have great projects and great results.
Of course we do. And I interview so many people who I often ask people to describe when they first started whatever they considered to be their first job, what it was like. And I spoke to somebody recently, she works at a British bank, and she said, when I started, there were 300 people in my building. I knew every single person, whether they were on reception or contractors or cleaners, I knew everybody. And now I come in and I hardly know anybody. And she said, it reminds me of a film about a former communist state where you don't know what you can say out loud because you don't know who your friends are and who you can trust. We have broken those relationships, and that is to the detriment of the high functioning of the organization, its efficiency, the discretionary effort, its retention, the knowledge sharing, but it's also to the detriment of everybody who works in that organization who feels isolated and lonely and less committed and just sadder. It's genuinely a tragedy. And I also think to your point about the lady that you spoke to on repair, I don't, this is a bit of a sidebar, but it's just one of my bugbears. I love sidebars. Yeah, I keep seeing on the moment, there's a lot of advice. Don't gossip, don't gossip. It's, it's bad for you. And whatever you say, people see that about you. Do you know who thrives in a world where people don't talk to each other? People like Epstein. Because if Epstein lived in a small village, there would be rumors and there would be mothers and grandmothers and aunts saying to their daughters and granddaughters and nieces, don't go near that house, sweetheart. There are rumors. But because where we lose society, where we lose the village, we don't protect each other. And so I think that the don't gossip is well-intentioned and terrible advice. It's a way as a society that we protect the vulnerable, we share information that may not be proven. And obviously there'll be some things, that are potentially damaging. But in a private environment, when your grandmother says, don't go through the graveyard at night, sweetheart, because there, we just don't know what happens in there. And I've heard some bad things. Like, that's very, very valuable information.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. And it also strikes me that an exhortation like don't gossip is also not meaning to be, but is maybe a little bit misogynistic as well, because gossip is always equated with, okay, good, I'm glad we can be on the same page about that. It's misogynistic because who's associated with gossiping? It's women. And the way that women work is, of course, not the way that society should work, quote unquote. And it's just,
but also, it's a bugbear of mine. There's a head of a former school that my kids were at, and he saw all the mothers gossiping at the gate. And I was like, go and listen to their conversation. You know what they're saying? They're saying, that mum over there has not been well recently. Could somebody take her kids after school? There's a place come up at drama club. Why don't you put your kid in for that? Oh, your kid's struggling with that class. You know what really helped mine was this tutor. I'll give you their number. Like, there's a huge amount. Or there's a sale on at the supermarket of whatever it is that you know. Or I've got that size jacket and my kid's grown out of it. I'll give it to you tomorrow morning. They are sharing nuggets of valuable, precious information that makes society works. And we can dismiss that as gossip, or we can say that is the stuff that society is made of.
Absolutely. That is the fabric of it. It also makes me think of product reviews in some ways, because what are product reviews and restaurant reviews if not public forum text published gossip?
Yeah, they are.
And people need that. We need it to make good decisions. We need it for help. It keeps us safe. It keeps us, going to the right places and meeting the right people. I wanted to ask you, and this is taking it back to work a little bit. You kind of said that you're finding that safety culture, so this push to make workplaces more psychologically safe, can also make people lonelier because they don't feel like they can say anything. And people are just talking to each other less and less in offices. So if you're a leader sitting with that paradox right now, what do you do? How do you help people more naturally interact? How do you make this connection that you're identifying we're really missing in workplaces?
It's really, really simple, but there's one rule that I absolutely live by, which is you never start a meeting until everybody's spoken.
Oh.
And whether it's on Teams or Zoom or in first person, everybody needs to be a participant in a meeting. Far too many meetings have become what I call prayers, where one person goes, and everyone else is tuned out rather than a conversation. And imagine that if everybody speaks in a meeting, and if you've got a problem and you say, right, this is a problem we're exploring today, I'd love to hear one take from every single person on this call, how the dynamic of those prayers changes. We have to listen to people. We have to allow space for people to finish a sentence, to come up with an idea, to contribute, because they want to be seen, they want to be valued. And too often in this world where we're so busy and we're so quick and we've got to get results, nobody gets to say anything, and then people just give up trying. They just stop trying to contribute. And then you've kind of lost them.
Yeah. Christine, I always like to ask people before I let them go on about their day, if there were one thing about your area of expertise, and you have many, so you choose, that you would like people to walk away with today, what would that be?
I would say go and be a bumper car. Go and talk to people. Go and make friends. Go and join a club. Go and meet people. Go and do something. I think learning to make friends is a weirdly valuable skill. And basically, to make friends, you have to turn up repeatedly at the same event or occasion. It could be a yoga class. It could be walking your dog at the same time every day. It could be, I play bridge in the village. It could be any activity that interests you. Talk to people and meet them and wait until they become your friends. And the more people that you meet, the more exciting and interesting life is. So go and be a bumper car, not a dodger.
I love that. Okay. Christine, thank you so much for taking the time to talk today. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely lovely to talk to you. Thanks so much for having me.
The days are longer, the calendar is filling up, and I want to feel as good as this beautiful summer weather. That's why I've been loving Groons. It's one daily pack of gummies that covers my greens, vitamins, and minerals, and even has 6 grams of prebiotic fiber, so I don't need to juggle a complicated wellness routine on top of everything else. They taste amazing. They're easy to toss in my bag on the go. Plus, they're vegan, gluten-free, and HSA, FSA eligible for reimbursement. Save up to 52% off with promo code podcast at Groons.co. That's code podcast at GRUNS.co.
Welcome to the bookend, where we end with books and insights.
Yeah, books and insights.
I just freestyled that.
There's enough room in the bookend for insights.
So, what do you want to talk about? I have some fun notes.
Okay.
I want to talk about the bumper car.
I thought that was a great analogy. I really liked it. Dodgems.
Dodgems.
I had no idea they were called Dodgems.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I also like when you said, "To whom does the premium human belong?" I wrote that down immediately. I was like,
to whom does the premium human
that
belong?
is a very Caitlinism top stuff.
Yes. Wait, what makes it that way? Is it the to whom?
I think so. I think so. But also just the idea of the premium human being, or the premium human.
Yes.
Premium human.
Yes.
Which was great. But where should we start? I mean, yeah, what sticks in your mind from the interview? I'm obviously a bit scattered.
Honestly, the part that sticks in mind, so there are two. One is this thing about how she went and talked to I think what effectively in the UK is like a policeman or some kind of councilman. And they said that they used to get these letters from people that were, people would directly talk to them with complaints. And now they get letters that have obviously been run through AI. And all they can do now is run it through AI again and get it like checked out to make sure they're checking all the legal boxes. And it gave me galaxy brain to think that this is a physical manifestation of AI slop in the world that is like affecting, it's not just some post on the internet that sucks. It's like somebody receives a letter that is AI slop and I guess
inefficiencies
exactly.
are like bewildering.
Yes. So that's what really did it for me. The anecdote was funny, but it was the first time the inefficiency that AI can actually build into our lives dawned upon me. So there was that moment. Yeah. And then the other moment that I really enjoyed, I mean, I'm pretty obvious about it in the talk, but I love talking about gossip.
Yeah.
And how gossip keeps us safe in some ways. Gossip tells you what's for you and what isn't. Gossip, of course, can always be damaging, right? Of course.
We're not talking about catty. You're not talking about catty, nasty behind the back talk.
No, we're talking about things like sharing things. Yeah. Yes. We're talking about like, you know what? I mean, I'm thinking of this really specific example from a community that's down in Florida near my aunt's. And on this one street, all of these people kept getting diagnosed with cancer. And they started to look into it. Of course, the housing council didn't want to look at it, but the residents started doing some research and they realized that like their water was contaminated. Oh. So if people hadn't been talking about this with each other, like, did you hear about like Irma down the street? She was diagnosed too. And if someone didn't recognize this pattern, it wouldn't have happened. So we don't mean gossip as in like shit talk your coworkers. We mean like talk about the strange things that you see happening in your life because maybe your neighbor has seen something too. Maybe you'll find a solution together and maybe it will make the world a little bit better.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting how Christine kind of brought it from COVID into today, right? Mm-hmm. Like, and you and I have talked about sort of what's been good about COVID. What do we want to hold on to from what did we learn in that time that we kind of want to hold on to, and in what ways have we gone way back to before COVID in a bad way, right? Things have gotten worse. Mm-hmm. And I think, ordering groceries, very useful sometimes. Sometimes life-saving. Sometimes people, up and down the stairs, or too sick to go to the shop, or better not to go and spread your germs. 100% useful, and I'm glad it exists.
Yeah.
Right. But replacing those kind of standing in line conversations, where you can go through the day now and not have a single instance of small talk.
Nope.
Very easily, actually, you know? And then we're like shocked that people feel lonely.
Exactly. Actually, on the way here today, a man sat next to me on the U-Bahn, and I mean, those seats are tiny, and there were 3 butts in that seat. Like we were cozy, and he kind of bashfully smiled at me when he sat down because he realized that he had disrupted both women on each side. But it was fine. I moved over. We shared a little smile, and then he said, "Are you from Spain?" And I was like, I'm extremely flattered. I guess my tan looks great. I am not from Spain. And then he's like, "Are you from Greece?" And I was like, okay, now I know you're flirting with me. No, I don't think he was. I think he was just being nice. And then he asked me about how to get somewhere in Berlin because he wasn't from here. And I thought, this is exactly what Christine Armstrong was talking about.
Yeah.
We just had a nice human interaction. I told him how to get to Alexanderplatz. That was it.
Right.
And I felt a little happier because I talked to a person.
And also, you're less afraid then of everybody around you.
Yes.
I mean, there's a political side of this also, of course, which is that it's much easier to divide people and make people follow you when they're terrified of everyone around them. And if they don't talk to any of their neighbors anymore, then it's easy to convince them that their neighbors are all terrorists or plotting nasty things. We lost the village is a phrase, I think, from her, from Christine. And I think that's interesting. You know, there's kind of a trope of like, oh, what are you going to do? You're going to save the world. You're going to start a reading group.
Well,
but I wonder, you know, like here in the bookshop, they had in the winter, we had, it was called Chill at Chapters. The bookshop's called Chapters, right? And it was literally just people could sign up and come and read all together. We had like wine and snacks and juice. And people just hung out and read.
Really nice.
And then people could talk about what they were reading. And it was so nice to have IRL hangs kind of with strangers.
Third space. Yeah.
So I agree. I also, like, I had a note for myself that's like, you know, I always think if you want to live an interesting life, you have to make kind of interesting decisions. You have to, I think Christine said, go and do something, you know? And I think that was a useful reminder. I think it's easy to be like, okay, it's meaningless. AI is going to do everything. We're all screwed.
Yeah.
I got to check in on my Slack before my Zoom in order to, you know, whatever. Anyway, it's easy to be despairing, of course, about AI. I think you two did a really good job in the chat and like about the future and technology and loneliness and how this is all going. And, but I think it was a good reminder that like what agency we have, we can use to make interesting decisions, live an interesting life, go and meet interesting people.
Yeah.
And that's great.
Cool.
Should we do books?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or is there anything else from the interview you wanted to talk about?
No, I think that covers it.
Books? You want to go first or you want to go
Sure, I'll go first.
after first?
I will go first this time. I'm actually not recommending a book.
Oh, here we go.
I'm recommending a podcast.
Very good.
Yes, I am recommending a podcast that both you and I listen to. It is Better Offline with Ed Citron. And if there's anybody out there who is an AI skeptic, it is Ed Citron.
Yeah.
He is an industry vet and he does interviews. He does raging monologues, which I sometimes find hard to listen to be honest. And he does fun panel talks about what technology is doing, about the AI bubble. And I find it a very comforting, at least contrast to this like theater of AI dominance that we see spreading across LinkedIn, across other podcasts. And he's just like a very, he is a loud but sensible and trustworthy voice about all that's happening in the tech sphere. So that's Better Offline with Ed Citron.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ed Citron, his newsletter is also like, he's kind of like the Pied Piper of AI haters.
What a title.
Right? I mean, he writes these like 10,000, 20,000 word breakdowns of, you know, financial statements of AI companies. And
phenomenal.
Insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a really good counterweight. I'm glad you brought that.
Yeah.
I brought something completely different. I actually thought you were going to bring this also, but I'm glad that we didn't. I brought Jonathan Haidt's Anxious Generation.
Oh.
Remember that book from, was it last year?
It's in the last like 3 years or so.
So it kicked off like a whole thing. So, you know, the argument is that we've sort of created a toxic online world that everybody has to take part in, and that's created all these kids with anxiety and problems.
Yeah.
And that kicked off like a lot of focused campaigns in schools to try and reduce smartphone usage, or there's, I think, Wait Till 9 or something. That's not what it's called. Something about waiting until after 9th grade.
Yeah, okay.
There's a clever, memorable name for this campaign.
Wait till 8?
Maybe wait till 8.
Because, I mean, the rhyme is there.
Should we look it up?
Sure.
Smartphone, kids, school, campaign, wait.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Wait till 8.
Wait until 8th. I think wait till 8 has more of like a rhythm, more of like a iambic,
Oh, it's not wait till 8th.
Waiteth. Anyway, I think it's good. I'm in favor. I'm a parent. I think we should be very aware and cognizant of smartphone and social media usage and internet usage in general in the kids, blah, blah, blah. I think it's interesting that that's not even a super controversial position anymore. That shows how much the zeitgeist has changed to the point where, like, Christine also talks about, 6 months ago, a year ago, everyone was like, AI usage everywhere. And she'd mentioned one study that was like a bunch of CEOs don't even use it. It's hilarious.
Well, also there was recently this article about how one company spent $5 million in AI tokens in like the first quarter of the year without noticing.
Right.
Whoops. That's a big whoops.
Well, they changed the price. Anyway, we could do more AI episodes. But I think the important thing about Jonathan Haidt's book is we have created this world, So what can we do? What can we do to actively make it better? Anyway, I think this book, Anxious Generation, connects to this idea of like technology. How do we incorporate it in a way that feels better? What can we do that's better? And I thought you and Christine talked about that really well, and that was really interesting.
Oh, cool. Good. All right. Nice rec.
Awesome.
Okay, then.
Take us home.
Simplify is produced by me, Caitlin Schiller, you, Ben Schumann, Stoller, Molly Rose Hart, and Joao Lucas for Colo Media. We are here in Colo Media Studios in the back of the beautiful Chapters Bookshop in Berlin, Germany.
Rock on.
Until next time, checking out.
See ya. Many of you know that Caitlin and I used to work at Blinkist, and they're our advertiser now. Honestly, it's a good fit because the internet feels very crowded right now, and it's hard to find insights that actually matter among all the noise. Blinkist offers 15-minute summaries of key nonfiction books, entirely read now by real humans. No AI voices anymore. It's just a quick, thoughtful way to explore new topics and save time. For instance, you can get the key messages from Charles Duhigg's book, The Power of Habit, in just one sitting. Check out Blinkist.com/simplify.